As they prepare for a Week 7 showdown with the new and improved New York Giants, just how big of an opportunity do the Denver Broncos currently have in front of them? Is there a potential changing of the guard happening this season, specifically in the AFC? And are the Colorado Avalanche still missing one pretty important thing that's going to have a big determining factor in whether or not they can do better and move further in the postseason than they unfortunately did last year? All things to come on today's rundown, but we begin with a shout out to our friends at Denver Regenerative Medicine. Guys, if weight loss has been a struggle for you, it's time for something real. At Denver Regenerative Medicine, they use full-strength GLP-1 medications with doctor oversight. You can start today with a free consultation and get real results for under $300 a month. Book now at denverregen.com. Welcome to it, another edition of the Rundown here on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. The weekday is rolling on. The weekend is closer now than it was at any point earlier this week, and I'm excited. We have a lot going on, moving and shaking here in the Denver sports and Colorado sports landscape. I want to begin today by talking about the Denver Broncos, and more specifically, where things stand through 6 weeks of the NFL season as it relates to the AFC as a whole. Last year, the Broncos found a way to break their streak of postseason misses and losing seasons, which had carried on since the 2015 and 2016 seasons, respectively. And they made their way into the wild card before they met an abrupt end at the hands of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And the question that's been raging on throughout the majority of the time in the offseason leading up to the 2025 year, and now 6 weeks into the NFL season, has been here locally: can the Broncos do it again? Was the 2024 campaign a mirage in the desert? Was it an aberration? Was it an exception? And what we have seen for the better part of the last decade is more of the rule of current Denver Broncos football. Well, it hasn't always looked pretty, certainly not this past weekend at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against the Jets. But the Denver Broncos have found themselves, despite being one of the more undisciplined teams in the National Football League from a penalty perspective, despite having an offense that has failed to be consistent on a game-to-game, week-to-week, or even drive-to-drive basis through their first 6 tries, the defense performing at a historic level, especially from a sack production and pass rush perspective, has put them in a position where they're sitting at 4-2, tied atop the AFC West with the LA Chargers for a potential positioning in a wild card spot, which is where they found themselves last year. But zooming out from the Denver Broncos, or specifically the AFC West, and looking at the AFC as a whole, there may be a changing of the guard taking place. When you look at the current AFC standings, you have the Colts sitting alone atop the throne at 5-1, Steelers and Chargers and Patriots all there at 4-2, the Bills sitting there underneath them as well, and then the Jaguars and Broncos with the 6 and 7 seeds. So if the playoffs started today, the Broncos would be in exactly the same place that they were before. But look at what's going on below that Mendoza line right there. The Chiefs sitting at 3-3 at number 8. The Texans at 2-3. Bengals, Raiders, and the Baltimore Ravens at 1-5. Obviously, some issues with Lamar Jackson and things of that nature. But think about that. 3 of the 4 division winners in the AFC from last year, if the playoffs started today, would not be in the picture. The 15-2 Chiefs from last season are sitting at 8th in the AFC right now at a dead even 3-3. The 12-5 Ravens, who lost 5 games all of last year, have now matched that total through 6 weeks of the NFL season at 1-5. And the Texans, coming out of the AFC South as a 10-7 divisional winner in the playoffs last year, are not in the postseason picture as of right now. If that, combined with the injury to Joe Burrow, which has significantly altered the trajectory of the Cincinnati Bengals season, and the Colts' resurgence under Indiana Daniel Jones, if all of that doesn't show you that the AFC is as wide open as it's ever been and as up for grabs as it's been in at least the last half a decade or so, I don't know what else you'll need to see. The Denver Broncos, despite the fact that it hasn't looked pretty at times, especially offensively, and that they've lost games where they should have won, getting walked off twice by two good football teams in the Colts and the Chargers on last-second field goals and a leverage penalty causing one of them in an extremely painful fashion. The Denver Broncos, despite all of that, are in significantly advantageous position to make some noise in the AFC and continue the momentum that was built in from last season to repeat as a wild card or a postseason contender and potentially have a more favorable matchup than what they witnessed last year walking into Orchard Park, New York, and getting boat raced by Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. We have not in recent history seen the American Football Conference look as topsy-turvy and uncertain as it has in that span of time. Josh Allen and the Bills look, I don't want to say fraudulent, that seems strong. They look shaky. They just lost to the Atlanta Falcons, and their defense seems to put Josh Allen and that offense in positions where they've got to score north of 30-plus points if they want to have a surefire chance at winning a football game. The Colts, Chargers, and Patriots sitting atop of the standings like it's 2007, but it's 2025, not something that we are necessarily used to seeing. The Bengals with Joe Burrow and the Ravens with MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson fighting for a potential avoidance of a coaching change with John Harbaugh and their season gone completely by the wayside. I don't know what it will ultimately mean for the Denver Broncos in the AFC landscape, but I will say that it's never felt more attainable to win the AFC West and have a pole position, a prominent standing in the AFC as a whole from the Denver Broncos point of view than it does in 2025. You'd have to go back probably to the Peyton Manning era years before it really felt like the Broncos had a genuine, more than a puncher's chance at securing a postseason ticket and potentially advancing into a home playoff game scenario the way that they were during those years from 2012 to 2016. The Colorado Avalanche are also embarking on their 2025 campaign, and boy, are they kicking the door down. I know there was a blip on the radar with a shootout loss to Mikko Rantanen, naturally, and the Dallas Stars. But man, I got to tell you, through the first four games, this Avalanche team looks like, as they've been at times in the recent past, are going to be a wagon, an absolute force in the regular season, a team that I believe will contend for a President's Trophy, and President's Trophy curse be damned. I don't think that that's something that the Avalanche should have to worry about, because I think seeding and position and home ice should matter to this team, as we've seen it bite them as recently as last postseason, where they had to face a more physical and rough Dallas Stars team that neutralized some of the speed and skill and precision that the Avs play with, and they got to do so more frequently at home in a 7-game series than they had to in Colorado. It is kind of a tale of two lines for the Colorado Avalanche so far through this season, because when you look at the Avalanche top line, it's almost disgusting, the production that they are putting up through the first four games of the season. Nathan MacKinnon and Marty Necas with 8 points apiece are tied for second in the entire National Hockey League in points. Cale Makar adding in 5 points of his own. And how about Scott Wedgwood filling in for the injured Mackenzie Blackwood? 102 saves, just south of a .940 save percentage on the season, and 21 high danger saves so far in 4 games, which is number 1 across goaltenders in the entire NHL. You can't ask for more than what we've seen through a 4-game, very limited sample size from the Avs top line. Nate Dogg is back to being Nate Dogg. The Marty Party that we were uncertain of because of a shaky showing like a lot of Avs in the postseason is back and bumping. He appears to be poised for a potential 100-point season, which would be a fulfillment and a manifestation of what Chris McFarland had in mind when he traded Mikko Rantanen to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Necas and Jack Drury. So that certainly seems to be a pairing that, from a skill and speed and precision standpoint, with him and Nathan MacKinnon running side by side with Artturi Lehkonen, should seem to continue to produce at a very high level. But the second line for the Colorado Avalanche is where I think the coin starts to flip to the other side. Gabe Landeskog back for his first regular season action since recovering from his injury that took a number of years to finally come back from, and is something that no hockey player and very few athletes outside of Lonzo Ball had ever successfully done in professional sports. Then you've got Brock Nelson, fresh off of a 3-year contract extension as the second-line center, and of course, Big Val, Valeri Nichushkin. So all of the positive accolades that I just laid out there and we put on the screen about the Avs top line, specifically with Nathan MacKinnon and Marty Necas, the second line's a ghost town in that regard. 0 goals, 2 total assists, and a -2 in the plus-minus for Gabe, Brock, and Val. Contrasting that to what we've seen from the top line, adding in the brilliance of Scott Wedgwood and Cale Makar doing his thing in his own right, that feels like a pretty significant imbalance that I think the Avs are going to have to overcome. I don't want to say in a hurry, but maybe in a hurry, if they are going to find the necessary scoring depth and balance from line to line that they've needed so sorely in the past. Because really, when you talk about the Avs and their inability to break out of the second round outside of the Cup year under Jared Bednar, what's been the main culprit? Injuries, Valeri Nichushkin's off-ice issues. But if you're talking about when all else is equal, it's been the fact that the Avs don't have quality depth. They aren't able to produce offensively in their bottom and middle six the way that the top six has had to carry so much. That was the impetus and the onus behind shaving Mikko Rantanen off of this Avalanche core, to try to use that distribution of money and resources to spread it out beyond the top line. And I think effectively they've put pieces in place that have done that. You have Marty Necas as your shotgun rider with Nathan MacKinnon. You have Brock Nelson on your second line while getting Gabe back alongside Valeri Nichushkin. You have a third line that now features Jack Drury, where he was your fourth line center last year. And then you have Victor Olofsson and Gavin Brindley, all pieces that came as a result of offseason moves cascading from the Mikko Rantanen trade. So the Avs have done what they needed to do from a front office standpoint so far. There will be tinkering to come. But so far, that front office with Chris McFarland, Joe Sakic, and company have made the requisite moves that needed to be made to try to solve the problems that kept the Avs from breaking out of the second round. Now it is on the players in positions to make those moves validated and show up on the actual ice. Top line for the Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon and Marty Necas, 8 points apiece, pretty evenly distributed between goals and assists. Cale Makar throwing in 5 points, and Scott Wedgwood between the pipes, soon to be Mackenzie Blackwood, pulling their weight, and maybe even more so from a production standpoint in this early snapshot of the NHL season. But that second line with Gabe, Brock, and Val not having a single goal, not having a couple of assists, and an overall -2 on the plus-minus, combined with the fact that the power play struggles and the anemic nature of their scoring ability when they have a man advantage still recurring, is not a positive sign, and something that I think that Jared Bednar is going to have to get a handle on sooner rather than later. It's going to be a fantastic landscape to keep track of across the world of sports. The Buffs are on a bye week this week, but they've got a pivotal matchup with a significantly improved Utah team that is much better than they were in 2024 when the Buffs were able to beat them by more than 3 touchdowns. The Broncos, and we'll get into it further this week with their matchup against the Giants, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo breathing life back into a franchise that, with Russell Wilson at the start of the season, was going to head nowhere fast. Now suddenly the complexity and the nature of this game feels different. And with what we laid out earlier in the show, this game, although it's not against an AFC opponent, because of the wide open nature of the AFC right now and the way that up is down and down is up when you're looking at the Chiefs being out of the playoff picture right now, the Ravens being a light year out of the playoff picture right now, the Texans, all division winners from last year, not being in play, an injury to Joe Burrow taking the Bengals out of serious or significant contention, and then the Chargers, the Colts, the Jaguars, so many lesser than expected suspects now finding their way, like the Patriots, to rise to the top and kind of fill that space where Josh Allen and the Bills still occupy for now. The Broncos have a chance to strike while the iron is as hot as it has ever been. And this game against the Giants, building off of a significant signature win against the Eagles and then a shaky follow-up performance against the Jets, this Giants game will go a long way to telling whether or not the Broncos are still trending upward, especially offensively, or if they are simply skating by and surviving on the back of a pretty significant and historic, potentially, defense. We will monitor it all for you at Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Stay locked in on your radio dial or stream us on denversports.com or the Denver Sports app, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. with our wonderful lineup, top to bottom. We have you covered. Click over to denversports.com and check out the multitude of written content that is available for you from the likes of Will Peterson, Jake Shapiro, hosts of the Mile High Hoops and Hockey podcast, which are about to be back in full swing, James Marilat, Andrew Mason, Cecil Lammy, Trent Finnegan. And then like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have so much content that we are continuing to pour in specifically on YouTube for consumption. It is a platform that we love, and we love the engagement that comes with the listeners that goes beyond what we can get on the radio side, on the text line, or even in the replies to certain things on Twitter and Instagram and things like that. We love YouTube. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Catch all of our daily live shows like From the Nosebleeds with Joey, where I've been sitting in and helping him out with the last couple of weeks. Right here on the Rundown, weekdays at noon. Orange and Blue today at 5 p.m. Weekdays with Andrew Mason and Cecil Lammy. Unparalleled Broncos coverage there that you really can't get anywhere else. And then, like I mentioned, Mile High Hockey with Will Peterson, Mile High Hoops with Jake Shapiro, and more content unrolling later this year, all available for you live and on demand 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next Rundown.
I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.